The morning sun rose over a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Chicago, where manicured lawns hid complicated lives behind white fences. Jonathan Hale, a self-made millionaire known for his sharp instincts, stood in his private garage staring at his reflection. Today, he wore faded gloves, a heavy coat, and a gray wig tied beneath a scarf. Years of wealth had taught him one lesson: people showed their truest selves to those they believed powerless. Since his son's sudden death, Jonathan had quietly worried about his daughter-in-law, Melissa, and how she treated others. Grief and suspicion mixed, pushing him toward a test he believed necessary. Jonathan's fortune came from logistics and waste management, a business that taught him humility early on. He respected labor, yet feared money could rot kindness. Melissa had married his son, Ethan, with warmth and charm, but after Ethan's accident, something changed. Jonathan noticed the impatience in her voice with staff, the dismissive gestures, the way she avoided family dinners. He wondered whether sorrow hardened her or whether he had misjudged her character. Refusing to rely on rumors, Jonathan decided to see her unfiltered, believing a disguise would reveal what polite society never could. Disguised as an elderly garbage-collecting woman named Mrs. Green, Jonathan joined a private sanitation crew contracted in Melissa's upscale neighborhood. The uniform smelled of oil and rust, grounding him in a world he once knew. His hands ached quickly, reminding him of youth and long shifts. As the truck rolled toward Melissa's home, his heart pounded with guilt and resolve. He told himself this was for clarity, not cruelty. He wanted truth, even if it hurt. He never imagined how deeply that truth would cut or how it would turn his judgment inward. Melissa's house gleamed with glass and stone, a monument to wealth Jonathan had helped secure. As Mrs. Green, he carefully dragged bins toward the truck. Melissa stepped outside, phone pressed to her ear, irritation written across her face. Without looking up, she snapped about the noise, complaining the truck was blocking her driveway. Jonathan apologized in a soft, shaky voice, explaining it would only take a moment. Melissa rolled her eyes, waved dismissively, and told him to hurry, her words sharp enough to bruise. As Jonathan worked, he accidentally dropped a bag, spilling refuse onto the pavement. He knelt slowly, struggling to pick it up. Melissa sighed loudly, finally ending her call. She scolded him for being careless, for making a mess in front of her home. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, silent witnesses. Jonathan expected impatience, but the cruelty surprised him. She mocked his age, muttered about incompetent workers, and demanded compensation for the inconvenience. Each word landed heavier than the last, echoing against the memory of the gentle woman Ethan once loved. The crew supervisor rushed over, apologizing to Melissa and urging Jonathan to hurry. Jonathan noticed how easily blame shifted to the weakest person present. His chest tightened, not with anger but sorrow. He finished cleaning, hands trembling, and thanked Melissa for her patience, though none had been shown. She walked back inside without another glance. Standing there, Jonathan felt foolish for believing wealth insulated families from moral decay. Yet part of him resisted judgment, reminding himself grief wore many masks, and pain often spoke in ugly tones. Later that afternoon, still disguised, Jonathan visited a nearby diner frequented by workers. He sat quietly, replaying the scene. A waitress offered coffee with kindness, asking about his day. The contrast stung. Jonathan realized he had tested Melissa but not himself. Had he been present enough after Ethan's death? Had he offered guidance instead of silent scrutiny? His plan suddenly felt small, almost cowardly. Truth discovered through deception carried a cost. He wondered if his test would heal or only deepen the fractures already splitting their family apart. That evening, Jonathan returned home and removed the disguise. He looked older without it, weighed down by regret. He decided confrontation without compassion would only harden hearts. The next day, he invited Melissa to lunch at a modest cafe, not one of their usual elegant places. She arrived guarded, surprised by the change. Jonathan spoke gently, asking how she was coping, whether loneliness had found a home in her life. Melissa hesitated, her practiced composure flickering. She admitted the house felt empty, the silence unbearable, anger her constant companion. Jonathan then told her a story about a garbage-collecting woman he met, someone treated poorly during a simple task. Melissa listened, discomfort creeping into her expression. He asked what kind of world she wanted to live in, one where grief excused cruelty or one where pain became a reason for kindness. Tears welled in her eyes. She confessed she often lashed out because it was easier than facing her loss. Jonathan realized his disguise had revealed her behavior, but not the wound beneath it. Finally, Jonathan revealed the truth. He told her he had been that woman. The words hung heavy between them. Melissa's face drained of color, horror and shame colliding. She covered her mouth, memories rushing back with painful clarity. She apologized repeatedly, voice breaking, admitting she hadn't recognized herself lately. Jonathan felt no triumph, only sadness. He regretted the disguise because it took deception to force a conversation that honesty could have begun. Yet, he also saw a door opening, fragile but real. Melissa asked for forgiveness, not as a daughter-in-law seeking approval, but as a grieving widow desperate to change. Jonathan told her forgiveness was a process, not a transaction. He apologized too, for testing her instead of supporting her. They sat in silence, sharing grief instead of guarding it. Jonathan realized his wealth had given him power, but vulnerability would give them healing. The test had exposed a painful truth, but it also exposed his own fear of confrontation and his need to control outcomes. In the weeks that followed, Melissa began therapy and volunteered with community cleanup programs, working alongside sanitation crews. She didn't do it for appearances but to remember humility and rebuild empathy. Jonathan joined her once, quietly, without disguises. They spoke of Ethan, laughing and crying in equal measure. Neighbors noticed changes not in wealth but warmth. Jonathan learned regret could be a teacher if listened to carefully. The day he disguised himself revealed cruelty, yes, but it also revealed the urgent need for compassion, honesty, and shared healing. By the time autumn leaves covered the sidewalks, Jonathan no longer thought of the test as a success or failure. He saw it as a mirror reflecting the cost of silence and assumptions. Melissa was not healed, nor was he, but they were moving forward together. The painful truth he never expected was not just about her behavior, but about his own responsibility as a father and mentor. In shedding a disguise, Jonathan learned that true character is revealed not in tests, but in the courage to face pain together.